I want to talk about some players that maybe we haven't discussed that much after their performance in the World Cup. Starting off with Eden Hazard, which I think stock has definitely risen, hasn't it, after what we saw in Russia, particularly in the Brazil game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's an unknown quantity.
Yeah.
But he had a very good World Cup. Slightly disappointing in the French game. Him and De Bruyne had never had their memories of him, didn't have the best of games. But yeah, if his stock is risen, if he's in that category, I wouldn't argue with that. Yeah.
Because the bar was set pretty low. He didn't have a great season, did he, for Chelsea?
He did okay, but not his best season. He played better the season before, but I thought his performances were excellent in this tournament. Twisting and turning, racing away at pace, making the right decision. If he had a centre forward with him, and Lukaku I think did well in certain games, if he had a centre forward who he could play 1-2s off, it'd have been even better because he was trying it and Lukaku was making the wrong sort of runs. But I think his stock has risen.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you a big Hazard fan, Brian?
I am. I think, to me, it always seemed if he was interested or not. If he wasn't interested at Chelsea, he'd just drift out on the wing. He'd get the ball and play backwards. He wasn't really going at players one-on-one. I think you saw an Hazard who was interested in this World Cup. He was taking people on.
It would be a worry if he wasn't interested in playing in the World Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah, but, I mean, there's definitely been cases when players have become disinterested, and that's become a problem. So to me, it has to be the right place for him to go, and I know there's large talk about Real Madrid. I could definitely see that working out well because of the players around him. He's not going to have to do a lot defensively. He's going to be excellent going at players, and it makes sense to me.
Meanwhile, Kieran Trippier, what a tournament he had. Stock definitely risen.
Yeah, absolutely, and he got a huge benefit because Gareth Southgate decided to play with a back three long before this tournament started, also the qualifying, and he decided he was going to play Kyle Walker as the third right-sided centre-back, which ultimately meant there was a spot as the wing-back, because had he played a natural centre-half in there, then Kyle Walker would have been the full-back or the wing-back. So he took full advantage of that, and he had a very good World Cup, but I was unsurprised in his quality on delivery. I know his free kick was great, but he's one of the better crossers of the ball when he's on the move. Generally, his crossing is very good. And again, I thought, he's not that I think Tottenham will be looking to sell him, but he was very good.
He was lucky that Kyle Walker played on the right side of the centre-back, but he was also lucky that Kyle Walker went to Manchester City because it enabled that spot to come open. Yeah. They then went and bought Aurier from PSG, and it looks like his position might be under threat. He's a much better wing-back than he is full-back because I don't think he's great defensively. When he's taken on 1v1, he can often get beaten. Going forward, and as Craig said, he's got great deliveries with balls into the box. He's a good free kick taker. That's the good side of his game. I'm not sure about him at the highest level defending 1v1.
Let's talk about stock going down on players. Lewandowski.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a bit tough on him just because the scenario he was in himself. Because if you look at this Poland team, it was all about how well Robert Lewandowski was going to do. It was how well Poland was going to do. And it's a lot of pressure. Excellent qualifying, scored a ton of goals in qualifying, and comes into World Cup and not really able to find his way in front of goal. And so people are going to say he's no longer worth as much. I have a tough time with that. Right. I think he's still one of the best center forwards in the world. I think wherever he goes, if he does move away from Bayern Munich, he'll cause other teams problems. He scores goals. He's very good with his back to goal. He's a great passer of the ball. He makes excellent runs. Listen, I think that regardless of whether his stock has gone up and down, this player is still a world-class
The problem is, he didn't really perform against Real Madrid either, did he, in the Champions League?
No, he didn't. But I tell you how tough it is. You've got the winner of the Golden Boot, Harry Kane, who you could say there's more questions than answers from the big clubs, because everybody was saying, and myself included, well, he could walk into Real Madrid, and I still think he can, but there's a little bit more doubt after the tournament about his ability to really perform at the highest level. But he's won the Golden Boot.
Sure.
So it's a harsh environment, this World Cup. And I think, to Brian's point, Lewandowski was somewhat a victim of a stale Poland side. They were a little stale, they were a little aging, and they didn't perform well, and he suffered for that.
Is he a top 3 striker in the world, Robin?
Up until last season, even though he scored goals for Bayern Munich last season, I've always thought he's a top striker. And his work rate was key to it. He'd chase people down, he'd win balls that he didn't deserve to win, he'd back into people, he'd make the right sort of runs. Last season, I saw a change in his game where he almost became, I just want to be the goal scorer. I just want to be that centre forward.
Right.
He didn't make the same sort of runs. He didn't work quite so hard. And I was a bit disappointed in him in the World Cup when things weren't going Poland's way. Of course, it's difficult for the centre forward, but I wanted him chasing people down, closing down, making things happen. And he didn't make things happen. So there's just a question mark.
And
in
he
my
made
mind.
statements, Robbo, last year.
Yeah, of
the year
course.
before, what was it? Because my teammates were.
Yeah, he wasn't happy because they didn't support him enough.
For I can't remember what the prize was.
Yeah, for the Golden Boot.
Golden Boot, or whatever it was, and he was and I think that tells a story that it had become for him all about just how many goals he scored.
Meanwhile, the whole Germany squad, stock has fallen, in particular, Mesut Ozil.
Well, it has, but I mean, it would be slightly bashing just Mesut Ozil, which
Sure.
did not mention everybody else,
Yeah.
including the coach. The only ones that stock went up was Leroy Sané because he didn't go to the damn tournament. but Mesut Ozil, in the big games where they had to go over the line. What game was it? The Sweden game or the
No, so Sweden when they came from behind, and then it was against
South Korea.
South Korea.
He was dropped for one game, and when they did quite well, I think.
Well, he played, then he got dropped, and then he came back after the war. I mean, it was quite staggering the mindset from the coach. That being said, the amount of possession they had against South Korea, he was trotting. He wasn't alone, but he was trotting around as if he didn't have a care in the world. And when he had a chance to have a shot, he was laying it off to somebody who was 5 or 10 yards away, and then they were having a shot, and somebody was sticking that down as an assist. Hugely disappointing.
Let's take a look at the early odds, shall we, to win the Champions League. Barca favourites, City coming in at 11-2, Real Madrid, what was it, 4 in a row? 13-2.
You like to tell everybody that, don't you?
And PSG. Juventus at 7-1. Gab, what are the real expectations with regards to Ronaldo now moving to Turin? Obviously, the Serie A is kind of a given, isn't it? Is it to win the Champions League?
No, I don't think they signed him because they're obsessed with winning the Champions League. As we said, I think they've signed him because they want to go to the next level commercially, and they believe Cristiano delivers that. And as far as his goal scoring in Italy, if I can just jump back on what you guys are talking about, I agree with what Stewie said about him not scoring as many goals for the simple reason that in Italy, once you're 3 goals clear, most teams, and certainly Juventus, they do not enjoy running up the score. And it's just that's why you don't see those 5, 6, 7, 8 nils that you sometimes get in Spain. And the other factor is the defending might not be as technical, but they're still pretty tactically sound. And finally, Allegri is a guy who will rotate his players, including his big players, to keep them fresh from the Champions League. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ronaldo's minutes go down compared to last season.
You look at their Champions League chances, Brian. Do you agree with the fact that they're behind all those teams, including Real Madrid?
Yeah, with the changes in the back, with of course, still plenty strong defensively. They did extremely well this year. You add Ronaldo to it. I think they have a chance. I think they have an opportunity. This far out, not knowing exactly the draw, not knowing the group. I mean, it's so hard.
Oh, Brian, come on.
I know, it's so hard to say. What are you talking about?
I just want to know, are they winning the Champions League? That's it. You have to
I
say
don't think
now,
they're going to. I don't think they're going to win the
definitive.
Champions League, but I do think they're going to compete well in the Champions League again.
I think there's a fair chance that they could win the Champions League. I mean, I don't see why they're as far down the list. What have they been to in the last two finals and a semi-final? Yeah, was it?
And they played very well against Real Madrid when they were 3-0 down from the first leg. They came back to get it 3-all. It was only that last-minute penalty, wasn't it?
I mean, the record in the Champions, okay, they haven't won it in the last 3 or 4 years, but they're just always there, and they're not weakened by Ronaldo going there; they're strengthened.
Yeah.
So, and Real Madrid are weakened by Ronaldo leaving. Man City have got no pedigree in the competition. PSG have got no pedigree in the competition. So why would they be further down the list than they were last year? I don't get it.
What are they saying about possible transfer targets?
Not a whole lot of talk. I know that the discussion of the 2 Croats, Rebic and Perisic, came up, and those were kind of quelled, suggesting maybe they're not that close to finalizing them. There are some defenders in the case of Luke Shaw who wants to play, so I think there has been discussion whether it's going to be a defensive addition, how high profile it's going to be. I don't know. Fred obviously is the big addition they've had this season. It may remain to be the case as it goes through, but this is Manchester United, and with the trade deadline coming in very close here at the second week of August, their time will run short as to who they're going to begin with at the beginning of the season, which is going to be shorthanded because many of those guys that were there for the duration of the World Cup will not start the season with United.
Let's bring Gab Marcotti back into the show to talk about Rebic and Perisic. Gab, any chance United get these done?
I mean, I'm not sure how genuine the interest in Ante Rebic is. It would seem unusual because you're talking about a guy who really only's had, one good season with Eintracht Frankfurt, who of course made his loan deal from Fiorentina permanent just this summer. So it would be incredibly odd for him to move on again. Perisic is a slightly different story in the sense that they were after him last summer, came very close to signing him. In fact, I'm told just a couple £1 million apart. I think the difference now, 1 year on, is that Perisic is a year older. Inter don't have any great need to sell, whereas last summer it was touch and go with financial fair play. And I'm not sure United necessarily see him as a priority in the same way, given that in the interim, Alexis Sanchez has come on board as well.
It's not a stretch to say United need signings. They need players. They need to boost that squad to improve on last year.
Well, I certainly would have Ivan Perisic over Alexis Sanchez if the short period at Man United he had is anything to go by. Look, we know he's a good footballer, but I just couldn't work out where and how Mourinho was trying to fit him in last year. Whereas Perisic, whether it happens or not, is certainly a player that would fit the mould of Mourinho and Man United. Good quality, really hard worker, very experienced and a World Cup finalist. Again, last year it was the money, I think.
Yeah.
It was United didn't want to go to a certain amount and Inter Milan were holding out. But I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think Ivan Perisic in particular would be a fantastic addition for Man United.
Yeah, it'd certainly suit the way Mourinho wants to play. He wants his wide players to track back. He wants them to work hard and get forward, go and support the front player, have that little bit of quality as well. Perisic ticks all.
If Ronaldo wins the Champions League with Juventus, would everyone finally consider him as the GOAT? That means greatest of all time, Robbo.
No.
I've wondered.
No. I still think Messi's a better player.
Oh. Well, turned off the music for you, probably.
Wait a second. Someone likes Ronaldo. Wait a second. Work that board. Let me see if I can change his answer.
No, that's usually you when you're in your dinner.
Normally when he's talking, they switch the music up. You come
and try your hardest, and that's what you get.
Who's your GOAT?
Between Messi and Ronaldo?
Or Pele or Ronaldo?
Yeah, it's so hard to do generational differences. I think for me, it's Messi.
Messi?
Yep.
If Ronaldo wins Juventus?
I'll have to make a comparison.
Johan Cruyff, what about him? He never gets a mention.
Why do we always have to make
Is he your GOAT?
Oh, I love watching Johan Cruyff
Yeah?
play.
But you didn't answer the question.
Yes, I'll give Johan Cruyff, because he changed a lot of things in football.
Oh, why'd you do it so angrily?
It's willy-nilly.
Yeah. I thought like that.
I thought he would have picked a fullback or a wide player.
Yeah.
Well, he did pick a wide player to an extent.
Franz Beckenbauer, he was good as well.
If we had VAR for the 2010 World Cup final, do you think Howard Webb gives Nigel de Jong a red card for that jump kick to Xabi Alonso early in the game?
I was with him last Wednesday.
What, Howard Webb?
Nigel de Jong?
No.
Xabi Alonso?
Howard Webb.
Oh.
And he said that he wished they had VAR for that exact reason. Because he didn't see it. He was blocked. He couldn't see it. And he said, if I had VAR,
he didn't see it.
If I had VAR, I would have thrown him off in the sink.
I was commentating on the game.
Oh, lots of links to this game.
Did you say it should be a sending off?
Can't remember.
In relation to you have
It was a horrible game, wasn't it?
Final. Yes.
I would say he had to be sent off. If they had VAR, Howard Webb would have sent him off.
Where did you watch the final, Robert?
Where did I watch the final? I was actually on honeymoon.
Oh, where was your honeymoon?
It was 2010.
Where was the honeymoon, Robert?
It was. I'm trying to think where it was now. Oman.
Who's stupid?
Oman?
Yeah.
It's quite a random
Chevy
place.
Hotel Oman. It was magnificent.
All right, name check it. Good.
Imagine you getting
Get
married.
another free
twice.
holiday if I name check it.
Imagine jumping back in again.
Why? Are you not enjoying your first?
No, I'm just saying.
But that's what you're suggesting. You're saying you would never get married a second time. You're not.
Alisson and Fekir in. Are Liverpool title contenders now? So if they get Alisson and Fekir, are they title contenders?
With Keita in.
I think they're second at the moment. Keita's a good player. I think
Right.
they're second behind Manchester City as favourites.
Okay,
Liverpool. They had a good end to the season. I think they've got a lot of confidence out the Champions League final.
definitely.
So I think they're second favourites.
Yeah?
Still need another centre half.
Yeah. Oh, solidify him.
Michael
Stevie
said-
Nicol.
Stevie solidified him last year, so yeah, another centre half.
the question, right?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're the top contenders, but I'm looking forward to this Premier League season, especially because I still think there's a lot of business to be done for some clubs.
There is going to be some business. When's it closing days?
Ninth.
August 9th, isn't it? Yeah.
Got to be done early. But now the rest of Europe doesn't close in.
No, so you could still go, but you can't come. Good.
Correct.
Anything else? Should we go?
Yeah, why not?
That's it.
Manchester United begin their preseason training here at UCLA with the Premier League season looming. August 9th is their kickoff. I'm here with ESPN FC's Rob Dawson. And we start at the World Cup where a lot of players, they're not going to see the training because Paul Pogba, Romelu Lukaku out. So what is the club looking to get the most out of this experience here in the United States?
Well, there are still some first-team players there, the likes of Ander Herrera and Juan Mata, will use this time to prepare properly for the new season. Obviously, it's not just about preparing. There's a commercial aspect as well, and they want to drive ticket sales and have a few more American fans on board, hopefully, with these games. But ultimately, the most important thing is about preparing for the new season, perhaps seeing if some of the young players who are here are ready to make the step up, which will be interesting. But like you say, the main goal is to get ready for that first game.
I've heard this, and you mentioned it to me off the air, but it's very comforting that Jose Mourinho loves to come here.
He does, and he's been here with a number of his former clubs, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, I think have all been here. Obviously, we're here last year as well. UCLA, the same field, the same dressing rooms, same hotels and things. He likes it here. He likes the climate. He likes the way of life. He likes that it's quite relaxed. The players can go out and have a wander around and maybe not get mobbed like they might do in Manchester. He likes the facilities here. It's fantastic for these players to come and train. And it was quite difficult to find somewhere that's as high tech, I suppose, as Carrington, but this is one of the places that ticks all those boxes.
It's a great point. Let's talk about the players. Daley Blind is on his way back to the Netherlands, and Luke Shaw says he will only want to be part of Manchester United if he plays. So on the defensive side, how do you see the player transfer situation, reinforcements perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Daley Blind left because he wasn't really getting enough football. It's not a massive surprise that he's headed back. Luke Shaw is an interesting case because he's obviously still very young. An awful lot of football ahead of him. He's just not really established himself under Jose Mourinho yet, but this is a great chance because Ashley Young, who started all of last season, was at the World Cup and won't be here at all. So it is a chance for Luke Shaw. In terms of additions, they're still looking for a centre-half, a central defender to come in and maybe shore up the back line a little bit. Obviously, they're running out of time. It's a shorter transfer window in the Premier League this season, and they're going to have to do things by August 8th, which puts the pressure on a little bit.
Yeah, it sure does. And you mentioned on the defensive side, this is Manchester United. It'd be naive to not expect at least some significant changes along the way. But are there anywhere, if not defensively, perhaps on the offensive side of the team, that they might make some changes here soon?
Yeah, I mean, it's slowed down really. The World Cup doesn't help when players are away with national teams and then go away on holiday. It's very difficult to get those deals over the line. Jose Mourinho is happy that they've signed Fred from Shakhtar Donetsk. Diogo Dalot has come in from Porto. So he's got two of his main additions in. He does need something else. You're talking about bridging a 19-point gap with Manchester City. He's going to need more than Fred and Dalot to help do that. So we're expecting more additions. Whether they get over the line or not, we're going to hear for the first time from Mourinho tomorrow, and hopefully he'll have something to tell us.
We'll expect to hear about Mourinho and how things have changed with his relationship with Paul Pogba. Not that there wasn't a bad, but it's certainly improved now that Paul Pogba is a World Cup winner. How do you think that will affect the Mourinho-Pogba exchange?
Well, I think Mourinho's always told us that he hasn't got a personal problem with Paul. Obviously, they're very different characters in the way they go about their business. Paul is particularly extravagant, and you can understand why there may be a little bit of a clash of personalities, but that's not unusual with a manager and a player. I think what Paul has shown is that he can do it. That the World Cup is the biggest stage of all for these players, and he's been able to do it on the biggest stage and win a World Cup, which is incredible for a kid who has still got an awful lot of football left. The key now is whether he can do that at United. Obviously, we've not seen enough of that since he joined from Juventus, but he's one of United's best players, if not United's best player, and they need him to perform like he has done for France this summer.
How much do you think the winning the World Cup will give Pogba some equity, not only with the club, the city, but certainly with the league?
Yeah, massive. From a personal point of view for him, it's a huge confidence boost to play that well in a World Cup and to win it, score in the final as well. The fans are excited again to see him because they're hopeful that he can be the player for United that he has been for France this summer. The excitement that was there when he first joined from Juventus, and unfortunately hasn't always fulfilled that. So he has built up a bit of goodwill. I'm sure Mourinho is looking forward to having him back because right now he's one of the best players in the world.
Yep. A few days here in the United States. You okay with that, Rob?
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
Okay, Rob Dawson joining us here at ESPN FC.
We're back for the transfer rater on ESPN FC alongside the former Arsenal and England midfielder Stuart Robson. Let's start with Ivan Perisic, who's had not a bad summer. Does it get better? Does he swap into for Man United?
Alexis Sanchez plays in his position. He didn't do particularly well last season. Perisic, there was talking about him going to Manchester United last year. I think he had a good enough World Cup for Manchester United to be interested again. I think he will go to United and he will be a hit.
Gonzalo Higuain, does he move from Juventus to go and join Sarri at Chelsea?
Sarri got the best out of Higuain when he was at Napoli. It's the best I saw him play. He was absolutely outstanding, scored lots of goals. There's not going to be a place for him, I don't think, at Juventus this season with Ronaldo going there. So there's another hit, and I think Higuain would suit Chelsea perfectly.
Stephen Nzonzi is kind of having the second wind in his career, and World Cup winner now as well. Unai Emery knows him well. Would he be a good fit for Arsenal?
Yes, they need a good holding midfield player. Unai Emery is building a squad and trying to change the way the squad is being built and the players within it. Nzonzi, I think, is a good player. He's a holding midfield player. He's good in the air. He's better than the players like Xhaka that Arsenal have got at the moment. So I think it would be another hit. Nzonzi to Arsenal.
Oh, 3 for 3. Love this kid, Rabiot, middle of the park. Great.
Deschamps doesn't love him.
No, he doesn't love him. Barcelona, do they love him enough?
From all reports, I think he's a player that lots of people have been looking at, Barcelona being one of them. Rabiot is an outstanding player. He's got a good left foot. He can run with the ball. He can defend well. I'm going to make it 4 out of 4. I think Rabiot will eventually get himself to Barcelona.
I do believe we've never had a full quintet, a full 5 out of 5. We have a chance here. If you've got Bernd Leno in front of you, maybe Petr Cech, whatever he decides to do. If you're Ospina, Colombia, do you go? Is he going to leave Arsenal?
Ospina has been waiting for Petr Cech to finally not play particularly well. Petr Cech hasn't had a good couple of seasons. So Ospina would have thought he would have been the number one to take over. They've now brought in Leno. 5 out of 5.
Wow.
I think he'll want to leave and he'll go to a different club.
Take a screenshot of that and let's see if Stuart Robson, the former Arsenal midfielder, is right with full quintet on today's transfer rater. Well, Chelsea were champions and then they finished 5th. Can they be title challengers again this coming season, Stuart Robson, under their new coach, Maurizio Sarri?
I think it's going to be difficult. Sarri is a very good manager. He turned Napoli around. Benitez had them playing to a certain style and it wasn't overly successful, although they were in the top 3 quite often. When Sarri took over, they played a wonderful style of football. They were always on the verge of winning the title, but couldn't finish it off because he didn't use enough players and he didn't have a big enough squad. But I like Sarri as the Chelsea manager. He hasn't got enough time to start with before the season starts to get his ideas across because he's a manager that not dictates to the players, but he knows what he wants. And you can see from as soon as the team start playing, that's a Sarri side because they play a certain manner.
Yeah, they play a 4-3-3, which is different to what Conte played. If you're Marcus Alonso and Victor Moses, are you worried right now?
To a certain degree. He played with a normal back 4. The wide players were attacking players. Moses was an attacking player to start with. I think Alonso could play as a left back. I don't think there's any problem with that. When the Napoli left back used to get forward, he used to get forward with great pace and get crosses into the box. Alonso can get back as well. Moses would be the player that would probably have more of a worry in getting into the side at right back. But Sarri is a top-class manager. He developed a style of play that was enjoyable to watch. It was also successful, and he had a wide players that sort of made different runs to you'll see other people make. Almost where they were running into areas where there wasn't enough space, but the ball still kept on being played into them, and they still got on the end of things. So I'll be looking forward to seeing Chelsea play this season.
He's in an interview. He said he's going to make 1 or 2 adjustments. Would one of the areas that he's looking to make an adjustment be up front? There's been talk about Higuain, and Morata's not exactly set the heather on fire at Chelsea, has he?
The 2 players he had at Napoli, first of all was Higuain, who became a very good player under him, the best I'd seen Higuain play. He then tried a couple of other players in Milik from Poland, and he also played with Gabbiadini, who eventually went to Southampton. And those players weren't successful, so he ended up playing Dries Mertens as the false centre forward, and it worked brilliantly for him. I think he wants a centre forward. That was just because the other 2 weren't successful that he played Dries Mertens there.
Just finally, one of the adjustments he's already made is to bring in Jorginho. Looks like that was part of the deal to get both to Stamford Bridge. I like him. He's a great passer. You've seen a lot of Serie A. Tell Chelsea fans what they're getting with Jorginho.
A player that sits in front of the two centre-halves, and he'll try and dictate the play. He's a good passer of the ball. I wouldn't say he's the best defensive player that you've seen. My worry for Chelsea is, if he's going to play there,
Kante.
What's Kante going to do? Is he going to go? Do they know they're going to sell him? Because I can't see the two playing together. That's a big problem for Chelsea fans.
Intriguing. Sarri's brand of football is exciting, as is his formation, but will he have time to implement it before the season gets underway in August? It's been something that's been talked about all summer. Stuart Robson, Alisson Becker, the Roma goalkeeper, going to Liverpool. Seems like it's ramped up. How good a signing would that be?
They need a goalkeeper. He's a very good goalkeeper. He played well for Brazil at the World Cup. But it was only a couple of years ago where he was the number 2 to Szczesny at Roma. So it's been a very, very rapid rise to sort of him playing at his very best. I think it'd be a good signing for them. They need a goalkeeper. The two goalkeepers they got aren't good enough. That's going to be a major addition to Liverpool if they can get him.
Does it make them title challengers if they sign Alisson?
They're going to have to play really well next season in all areas of the field if they want to challenge Manchester City. But it's certainly, that's the one area that they've been lacking for quite some while, Liverpool. If they can get him, and they can probably get one or two other players in, Naby Keita's excellent for them, I think they could be challenging Man City.
Where else do they need strengthened?
I think that they probably need another centre-half. Lovren has had a good World Cup and he's called himself a world-class player, but you'd still think Matip's been injured, of course, so I still think they probably need another top-class centre-half if they are to challenge Manchester City.
The figure bandied about for Alisson is 62 million. A, I've got no idea where they get the figures, and B, do transfer fees mean anything anymore?
Not really, no. I mean, nobody really worries about the transfer fee. As long as you can get the player, it seems to be working. They can make money on shirts and whatever else, and if they win the Champions League, they'll make money from that. So the transfer fees these days, you can look at figures, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it just shows you when Ronaldo signing for Juventus, their share price went up and practically covered the transfer fee cost. Not sure the same thing would happen if Alisson went to Liverpool, but it certainly would be another key part of Jurgen Klopp's jigsaw. So Real Madrid have got a decision to make. Do they replace Ronaldo with another star? Or Stuart Robson, do they say to Gareth Bale, you're going to be the main focal point of the attack and we're going to build around you?
I think it will be very difficult to do that because Gareth Bale, in the last couple of seasons, hasn't pulled up too many trees. When I've seen him play, he looks as though he's lacking confidence. Of course, he did brilliantly when he came on in the Champions League final. That might give him that extra bit of confidence. It might win over the fans. But I can't see it happening. There was games last season where he was taken off at half-time when they were struggling Champions League games. I can't see him being the focal point for Real Madrid. They've got some good young players, which I'm sure they will try and develop and bring into the side. But Real Madrid have a history of going and getting the best players in the world, and I'm sure they would try and do that again. The question is, which will be those players?
Let's go through them. Mbappe at PSG, Neymar at PSG, Kane at Spurs, Hazard at Chelsea. Those four, among others, have been linked. Who's the most likely from those four?
Eden Hazard would be the player that I would see going to Real Madrid because I don't think he's particularly happy at Chelsea, although he signed a contract. Harry Kane, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to get him away from Tottenham.
Signed a new deal.
And he signed a new deal, and Daniel Levy's a hard person to bargain with. Neymar, I wouldn't have him anywhere near my club. I don't think he's a good team player. Talented, but he's not the sort of player that I'd want at my football club. I don't think Real Madrid have already put out a statement saying they're not interested in him. So it's going to be difficult to get some of these big players. I can't see who it's going to be at the moment.
If it is Hazard, could you see him and Gareth Bale working in tandem well?
Eden Hazard, by all accounts, although he plays sometimes out on the left-hand side, prefers to be playing through the middle as a number 10 where he can twist both ways. And he's a player that, although he runs with the ball, he likes to link up with a centre-forward. He likes to play little 1-2s off people. He had a very good understanding of Diego Costa, even though he was coming off a slightly wider area. Gareth Bale, I don't think is that player that he could link up with. Gareth Bale wants to run in behind. So I'm not sure that's the right combination. If Eden Hazard comes to the club, I can't see Gareth Bale being the centre-forward.
Just finally, Real Madrid have always had this thing about Galacticos, certainly in the last 10 to 20 years. Do you think it will continue to be like that? Do you think Real Madrid is still the pinnacle for most players?
Yes, I think it is still the pinnacle. They've won the Champions League 3 years on the trot, so players will always want to go there. They pay enough money to get the best players. It's just a struggle to see which one they're going to get this time around.
Yeah, so wait and see. They probably will get someone to replace Ronaldo. The big question is, who will it be? So Arsene Wenger has said that his biggest regret in North London was staying too long at Arsenal. In an interview with RTL, here's a little bit of what he had to say. Perhaps staying at the same club for 22 years. That was when he was asked about his biggest mistake. I'm someone who likes to move around a lot, but I also like a challenge. I've been a prisoner of my own challenges at times. Now, alongside me, the former Arsenal midfielder Stuart Robson's had a lot to say about Arsene Wenger over the years. If only Arsene had listened to you a few years ago, it might not have happened this way.
And again, it's a sentence or a couple of sentences that really make no sense. And that's what I saw a lot of interviews, that's how he is. Tries to be poetic, but I'm not quite sure what he's trying to say. He should have left Arsenal long before he did. I think the fans wanted him to go, the press wanted him to go at times, the players probably needed a refreshing. He needed a new challenge. I'm not sure why he stayed at Arsenal for so long. I think he wanted to prove to everybody that they could do it. They could win the Premier League playing his way and not spending the big money and playing elaborate football without doing the defensive side of the game. He was proved wrong in the end.
One of the adjectives that was used a lot about Arsene Wenger was stubborn. Now, if I was the journalist and you were Arsene Wenger and I asked you that question, your biggest regret, would you have admitted what he admitted?
I think I'm still not quite sure what he's trying to say here. I think it was a big mistake for him to stay that long. He's not loved by the Arsenal fans anymore, as he was, say, 10 years ago. When he was, winning titles, when he was winning the cups, that's when he should have gone, and he should have gone to a new challenge. He could have gone to Real Madrid. He always says that I could have gone anywhere in the world at one point. Well, maybe he should have done and taken on a new challenge.
As part of the interview, he said he was approached numerous occasions about taking charge of the French national team after Dominic was one of them. Deschamps is in the role right now. He's had a wonderful time, Euro finalists, World Cup winners. Could Wenger be the next guy after Deschamps for France?
I don't think so now. I think he needs to get a job pretty quickly, otherwise people will start forgetting about him. Deschamps, I think, is going to stay on he's got a contract until the next European Championships. If he wins the European Championships, he'll probably stay on for another couple of years after that. It could be too late for Arsene Wenger to take the national team.
Will you miss him at Arsenal?
Not really, no.
No other words needed, huh?